How's everyone doing tonight? Welcome to the TNA Body Slam post show. I'm joined by Io. Io, what's going on?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm fired up after that show.
Yeah.
Real quick, but
I'm pumped, like super pumped, especially for because I'm gonna be there in person for Slamversary, and the card is just just building up momentum day by day.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, before we can get down to business, all the fun, let me just remind everyone this week's podcast is sponsored by Shroom Bar, the protein mushroom bar. It's made up of not psychedelics, but 4 powerful mushroom adaptogens. It has lion's mane, which increases focus, memory, and neuroplasticity, making it easier to form new patterns and learn new things. Next time you're trying to learn that new move, it actually might stick instead of actually forgetting it immediately. It has cordyceps, which increases VO2 max, blood flow, and overall endurance. It has reishi, which decreases stress. It has turkey tail, which boosts your immune system. All know that you're going to need that on those nasty-ass gym mats. And on top of all that, it has 12 grams of protein. Go to eatshroombar.com and use code BODYSLAM at checkout for 25% off your first order. Okay. I think before we get into, I think it's been kind of a tradition lately, especially if you've been watching TNA. Before we get into TNA, let's get into NXT TNA. And Io, if you could just kind of tell us a little bit what happened this week.
So for like NXT news or
What went
like the
down in
Carl
NXT?
Silver news or something.
What went down in NXT first off?
Okay, all right. So yeah, in NXT we had Joe Hendry and Mike Santana teaming up against uh, Ty Tyreek and Tyrese, the High Rise. It was a very decent tag matchup. Trick Williams, was on the commentary, you know, running down, his opponents, whatnot. Pretty decent match. And right after the match, Trick, gets involved, West gets involved, and Tyson Tyreek, they all kind of beat down on Joe and Mike. With them standing tall as we build towards not only the Slamversary match but also the contract signing this coming Saturday. So I mean it was a pretty decent match, but mostly getting some TNA shine on the NXT card. It's always good.
Yeah, just for TNA, I think TNA hat fans all should be celebrating just the double of press that TNA's been getting, through this
Yeah,
partnership. They pretty much have been getting double the promotion, so that should be applauded and celebrated. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Carlos Silva news. Yeah, we should definitely talk a little bit about that. Yeah, I think everyone was paying attention to that. Just a lot of things, a lot of talk about a distribution deal and potential streaming platforms. I think every TNA fan is probably on their seat waiting for that eventual announcement. Wouldn't you say?
definitely. Um, yeah, Carlos, the TNA president, for those yeah, he was very, very adamant, that TNA big things ahead, especially trying to like find a new home of increasing their viewing audience. He made a lot of good points in his interviews, especially with the Era Hawani show. So they're in talks with he mentioned they're in talks with some networks, and some of those networks do have streaming apps or so. And right now they're on like a 60 to 90-day countdown, I guess you'd say. Probably announcing something, but we'll see. But my guess will probably like be before the end of 2025. We'll have some sort of news. But yeah, he's praised the talent, the product, and especially the relationship. That the relationship is a big part of TNA's growing in subscriber apps. I mean subscriptions, social media. So yeah, according to him, things are looking good right now for TNA, especially for the relationship.
yeah, just for fans to listen to that, he sounded very confident, and that should give TNA fans like a confidence boost as well. That this isn't smoke and mirrors. That this sounds like a real thing, and you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And it would make sense too, just because I think TNA has become a hot commodity. If that wasn't the case, WWE wouldn't be working with them. So, yeah, all good things on that front. So, and again, if we hear something before 2025, that'd be great news. And you know what I mean? I don't think anyone's in a rush, because especially when you think that, yeah, this company's been around a long time, but I think that this is the most growth in a short amount of time especially meaningful growth they've ever had. Especially maybe going back to obviously getting on Spike TV was a huge deal, but if they're able to land a streaming deal with especially one of the bigger streaming platforms, that's huge. You know what I mean? That's more eyes on TNA. So that's good things.
Absolutely. It just shows like, yeah, this is the perfect time to start, reaching more goals that, the company probably hasn't been able to, like in the last 20 years or less than 20 years or so. So it's like seeing so much uplifting from talent and fans, and including, of course, the president himself. It just goes to show, TNA's in the right direction.
Me just kind of fantasy booking the idea of it. There's Paramount Plus, obviously. You know what I mean? You would think that there could be some sort of maybe relationship with Peacock through WWE. But I think that one that I would be really happy with would be Amazon, just because based on the sheer number of subscribers they have. I think they actually have more than Paramount, like quite a bit more. And so, yeah, I think that would be really cool. You know what I mean? Just because, again, the more eyes, the better.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's get into tonight's episode, which I think was full of talking points, but we're gonna go down the list one by one.
Yeah.
We opened the show with the Elegance, with Iceman introducing the Elegance brand. You know what I mean? I'm fine with this. I do think that this is the modern day beautiful people. You know what I mean? So, and I do think that, what. Also, let me just say real quick, because the first match was the Elegance brand, accompanied by Iceman and Maggie Lee, versus Harley Grace and Harley Hudson and Myla Grace. And first off, their entrance, great. But let me just say that this was the first time that I really got a sense of, okay, this is a real division, because this wasn't the Inspiration in there. You know what I mean? This was obviously Harley and Myla. And if you look at through the rest of the night, just real quick, I'll get into it later. The first 30 minutes featured 12 knockouts. You know what I mean? And that's not all of them. So this was the first time I really got a sense of a division. You know what I mean? Just kind of, especially with this match. This was a phenomenal match to open the show. What do you think about this?
Yeah, definitely. It was a good show. It was a good way to open the match, and the showcase for both teams. As we head to the knockouts tag title match. Um, shout out to shout out to Ash. Bringing out the Pittsburgh Steelers towel and ripping it. And I noticed the crowd, they were chanting "Cleveland sucks," because she's from Cleveland. So I thought that was a little funny. But yeah, good opener. Good showing from Harley and Myla as they climb up the ranks, and as the Elegance brand do to continue the momentum, because not only they got to face the Inspiration, but also Ash, as Hannafin reminded, she still has a future Knockouts title shots. I'm assuming that's happening post Slammiversary and stuff. So yeah, basically this is about continued momentum for the Elegance, especially for the Elegance brand, and especially us.
It's funny you mentioned future knockouts title shot, because after a segment we're going to talk about later, I think that there's one person in the company that should be the next Knockouts championship. I think it should be clear to everybody after tonight. But yeah, no, this was a very good segment. Like I said just at the beginning, yeah, I think I like the idea. We just have two established teams in the ring. We have another one, again, an inspiration. I just really like the presentation that the division and the attention the division's getting now. So this was really good. Okay, let's go to our next segment, which, again, I think this was part one of, and then we'll talk about part two. But I think this was the segment of the night. But we had Cedric and the Order 4, Hotch and Alexander, taking on Ali's Secret Service. I don't know who these gentlemen were, but I'm going to call them basically Gunner, Murphy, and number 3. I don't have a name for right now, but that's what I'm going to call him Gunner Murphy. This was good. I really like this. I honestly thought going into it, I didn't think we were going to get I didn't think we were going to get a long match. I thought that there was a point to this, and I did not see the swerve that we got. Obviously, Ali comes down. He takes out Hotch and Skylar, and all of a sudden, Tasha with the low blow to Cedric, and then she just kind of leaves, and that leaves Ali, who is just unhinged, to take out Cedric. And then I was shocked. I don't know about you, but I couldn't wait. I was a little upset that we didn't go immediately to the segment after this. But what'd you think about all this? I thought this was tremendous.
Yeah. So many things went down in this match and segment. Like you said, the trios match. Yeah, basically just to showcase Cedric. His TNA debut and whatnot. And after the match, I knew Mustafa was gonna come back. So after the match, Mustafa came back. Attacked the good hands, and then when Cedric counters, as soon as he about to hit the lumbar check, out of nowhere, Tasha. I think that just kind of shook everybody's everyone's like, what is going on? Like the person that you called, to come down, and now you do him like this. But then everything made sense when that backstage segment, which everyone's talking about.
Yes.
It kind of apparently this was all a plan of Tasha to get Order 4 back in focus, because she basically said, as I said too, Mustafa hasn't been the same since the Rebellion match with Santana, and Skylar and Hotch, they haven't lived up to expectations and whatnot. So basically, Tasha. This is basically Tasha putting her foot down, taking matters into her own hands, playing the whole damsel in distress, and I thought it was pretty much brilliant, how it all laid out. Basically, just when we thought we felt like we were feeling bad for Tasha, and the good hands were feeling bad for her, she was just playing this whole way of getting everyone back on the same track, which is pretty genius.
Yes.
And I'm laughing because the only person who got duped out of this is Cedric, because she basically used them.
Yeah. I'm glad you went into it, because obviously I had mentioned it wasn't immediately after, but I think it needed to be. So yes, we obviously go to the back, obviously to the parking lot, and Tasha is just taking charge of this segment. I looked up the quote because I knew it was something similar, but they always say behind a great man is a great woman, and I think Tasha just proved that she's greater, because if you looked at this segment, Hotch and Skylar were cowering. You know what I mean? You could tell Tasha was pissed. At one point, Ali asked, "Did you lie to me?" And she said, "Yeah, but I did it for your own good," as you alluded to, because he hasn't been the same. And he's like, "That, yeah, I hired the right person." Like I said, this is who should beat Masha for the title. Obviously, not now. You know what I mean? They can't just book it in 10 days. But after all, what goes down with what happens on Slammiversary, Evolution, and all these things, not Evolution, but NXT, once we see what happens, but I do think they need to start positioning Tasha to be the one to be, because I think that right now she hasn't been this hot in a long time. You know what I mean? Her stock is at an all-time high right now for me. And it's funny that
if you see what Mustafa just tweeted, he said she was never a damsel in distress. She was the devil herself, just in a dress.
I did not see that. Great tweet.
Yeah. So I think Tasha, she's in a good position, like being aligned with Mustafa. And right now we're seeing her. She's not afraid to she's not afraid to take control. Like even though Mustafa is the leader and stuff, like she's not afraid to take control and get, basically kind of what's that word? Basically fill in his role or whatnot to get things done. So this was a very good segment. It just kind of like a big revelation. That's what's going on. So it's going to be interesting to see how the match with Cedric and Mustafa go down. As she mentioned, Cedric is the guy he's never beaten, and we'll see how Order 4 and Mustafa take her there. Personally, I think they're just getting started, especially Mustafa. He's just getting started, so I can't wait.
And also, too, I'm glad that they did this just because, did they build to this great match, obviously, because, you could say that if Ali was just, facing random opponents, you could get the random person and say, oh, what are they doing with Ali? He's directionless. This is a money feud, with not involving a title. You know what I mean? So it's a must-see match again. So, and this is good shit. This is a good direction right now I like this. And again, it's a ready-made story. But I can't wait for this match. It just added more juice to it. And going back to this segment, I thought it was what a coincidence, because Order 4 had referenced in this promo that they're the best faction alive, and I like how right on cue the system comes up. Tasha and Alicia have a history. You know what I mean? So we're already getting faction warfare already with, I think, the previous top faction, who I think this will be the passing of the torch to the next top faction, TNA. And I like how
I like how they teased it a couple weeks ago. They teased it a couple weeks ago. Both factions, and then
Yeah, definitely. And I know we're getting a match next week, obviously, because the system challenged him. Ali tried to back out, but again, I think Tasha has proven that she's basically the leader of this faction. You know what I mean? Or at least the mouthpiece. She accepted.
The mouthpiece or something.
Yeah. She's the Speaker of the House, basically. You know what I mean? Because we're going with this political, gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wait for this. I hope that we get, and again, this would be another feud, because a Lethal Lockdown match. I don't know if they still do that show, but if we get a match like that, that'd be pretty good.
I mean, it's a match. I would say it's a fit-in for a plus special match, but it's kind of nice we're getting it now. Getting it next week. Yeah.
I think we're going to get more matches, especially just because I don't think they've done Ali versus Moose in a singles match. I don't know if they've done that yet. So, and I don't know if they've done Moose versus. I don't know if they've done Ali versus Eddie yet. And again, I don't think Eddie can have a bad match with anybody. So again, there's a lot of meat. You know what I mean, for what they can do here. You know what I mean. So I'm ready for it. Okay, let's go to our next match. We're gonna go back a little bit. It was Lei Ying and Masha versus Fatal Influence, Fallon and JC, being accompanied with Jasmine Nix. Oh, and Zaya was out there in the corner of Masha and Lei Ying. Again, a lot of knockouts being represented in this first part of the show, but this was another banger. What'd you think about this?
Yeah, this was a good tag match. All four ladies shined out, especially Fatal Influence. Um, as you know, as we're picking up ahead towards Slamverse, but also Evolution and stuff. Um, I'm really, yeah, I think, yeah, this since this match has been announced, the title versus title, everyone has been kind of talking, and then also a lot of attention towards, okay, could we possibly get Jordan versus Masha again, or is it gonna be JC versus Masha? Like that's the possibilities are like really cool there too. But anyway, in the tag match, it was very good. Yeah, I'm sorry, Fatal Influence. They control most of the match. Um, yeah, try to keep Masha away from making the tag and stuff. But then, eventually she did, and then, good showing from Lee and Masha as they pick up the win, as Masha, pick up some momentum. So right now we're just kind of waiting how the evolution match with seeing JC and Jordan goes, and then, see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be. I think that's going to be one of the. Because I'll admit I'm not the most. Of course, I'm going to watch Evolution. I'm not the card hasn't overwhelmed me, but I do think that JC versus Jordan is one of the marquee matches on the show, just because of the implications around the match and in the match. So yeah, I cannot wait for this, and I think JC looked really good out there tonight. So yeah, I cannot wait for this match. I can't wait, and I really like this match tonight.
Hmm.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
But wait, before we move on, who do you think should Masha? Who do you think should face Masha at Slammiversary? Like depending, like by the time next week we'll know the match. Like who's, but what's your take?
I think it. You know what? I would rather. I did want it to be Jordan versus Masha, but now that I think about it, I would rather not have Jordan win a title just to have her drop it that soon. Also, I just don't think you need to have Masha beat her again, especially because Masha beat her the last few times, one of them being for the title on Jordan's way out. So now that I think about it, I think they're going to have JC retain.
Yeah, especially. I mean, especially like how the like both like how she's being I'm talking about JC Jane here, like how she's being utilized in both programs, like
Mm-hmm.
especially appearing on TNA and then attacking Masha seems like in a way it still like seems like she's meant to hold the title at least till Slammiversary. So and as much as like Jordan too, as we do feel like she's main roster bound like at any given moment. Like
Yeah.
she might even go to Raw or SmackDown by next month or whatnot, or depending on how they do so. And also you got to factor in Blake Monroe. I know folks have her thinking like she's probably gonna face JC soon or something, but we don't even know because like they still have to build her and whatnot. So yeah, like you, I'm gonna go with JC and then Slammiversary. We're all pulling for Slammiversary, so.
Yeah, I think Jordan's in on the main roster before. I mean, by Rumble 2026. So whenever, so I don't think necessarily they will put the NXT World Title on her, just because I just don't see it's not that many months before then.
Yeah.
Also, in terms of Blake and JC, that's just weird because I know Blake's technically a face right now, but I think she's more of a natural heel. So her versus JC, I don't know. That would be a little weird. and because unless Blake is the face, but I do think that Jordan is gone from NXT before Blake is. So I think, again, so going back to your question, I think JC does win, though. I think it just makes more sense for JC to win.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Let's go into our next segment, which was just a little quick backstage segment with the system with Moose and Leon Slater. I thought this was good. I thought Slater's promo was really good. I think he continues to be a really good promo. If people haven't thought that, you could even say underrated, because I just think I don't see enough praise for him, his mic skills. But I think this segment to me more was the stuff with Cardona after kind of saying that Dark State's after everybody, and then just him kind of teasing the reunion with Brian Myers. But what did you think about all this?
Yeah, shout out to Slater. This was a very, very good face-to-face, face-to-face conference. Well, I mean, yeah, before we get to Cardona, but I liked Slater and Moose confrontation. Slater, really kind of being the whole underdog situation because he really is, fighting to make history and to you know, restore, you could say, the honor back in the X division, and Moose, being Moose, still taking him lightly. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's just what I like this whole build entirely between Moose and Slater.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, last week we saw a good video package of Slater's upbringing, and it's just one of those man, you love how the X division it always kind of it maybe not uh the star of the show, I guess you could say, or the main event or whatnot, but it always be the highlight. It always keeps people talking.
Mm-hmm.
And Slamversary does a match that's going to get a lot of people talking. So yeah, very good segment between these two. So then later on, Matt Cardona, mentions the Dark State attack and him basically admitting he might need help, but him asking the system help people is kind of crazy too. And they brushed off and walk off, but but then he looked at Myers and then said, "I need your help, bro." And then Myers walked up too. So it'll be interesting to see where we go from there. Yeah, definitely. I don't think this is the last we've seen of Dark State in TNA. So,
Yeah, and I do think eventually Brian Myers, I don't think necessarily turns on the system. I just think he ends up just kind of leaving and going with Cardona, because I could see a Cardona and Myers versus Dark State match of some kind coming. But yeah, no, this was fine. I thought this was good. Okay, so next we're gonna move on to a little weird. It was an Enzo Amore promo. I don't know if that's what he was going by, but this was interesting. This was something.
yeah, this was if you notice the logo said Fourth Rope, which is for those who don't know, that's West Side Gun's promotion. It's a really good promotion. He does some good shows involving TNA talent, AEW talent, indie talent, and whatnot stuff. So yeah, this was I think one of his plugs, and Enzo's holding one of his titles and doing whatnot. I don't think at least it was just kind of like a paid ad. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, at least at least it's good to see Enzo on our screens again, I guess.
Yeah, it was just, I was definitely, I was shocked. I didn't expect to see Enzo when I turned into TNA tonight, but yeah, no, this was okay. Okay, but next we're gonna move on to another promo. It was a Santana promo. I think it was just another one of, they kind of all had the same feel of, he is ready to put TNA on his back. And again, the name, the standard, I like how they keep going with that. But yeah, this was another really great promo by Santana.
Yeah, yeah. This is where Santana, is at his best. Bringing up, his upbringing. You know, giving us a reason why he does what he does, why he fights for what he fights, and what he believes, and it's just kind of like makes you want to get behind this guy even more as we head to Slammiversary. So this was very good,
Yeah.
and shout out to the camera crew who does this, who does the whole background city and whatnot.
I'm sorry, everyone. I actually skipped out on a segment, which again it was short, but I skipped out on the Macklin Jake something Mance Warner match. I don't know how I could have. What a
Oh
fight!
yeah,
Uh, while I'm watching that match, I'm like, man, I wish TNA had a trios division because I put the three of those guys, just three pissed off guys who will beat the shit out of you. They're
yeah,
scary. You know what I mean? Like, but that was a great match. I thought the whole thing just went together so well. What'd you think about that?
yeah. This was very good. Like right off from the bell, very fast paced. Both guys, I mean, all three guys, being the dog shit out of one another and stuff, and like especially yeah, especially Jake something, him showing like his agility and stuff, being the fast paced bull he is, and then
Mm-hmm.
you got the cunning Mance Warner and Steph Lander getting involved, you know Warner being unpredictable and stuff, and then of course you got Macklin, who was willing to beat anybody, like fight all comers and whatnot. And, yeah, it was a good showing. I knew, yeah, it was probably Warner that was gonna get the pin because I think there's still money to make to be with Steve Macklin and Jake something. So yeah, we'll see what Macklin does best. We had to Slammiversary. Yeah, good match too.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Next, we're going to move on to what I thought was, again, we got a match. It was a clean fit. Well, it was a finish, a little shenanigans, but it was Victoria Crawford, accompanied by Tessa versus Indy Hartwell. Tessa was, of course, on commentary. And the whole time, Tessa was, and I'm not really too familiar. Tessa keeps bringing up her and Indy's history. And after the match, even especially in her promo, she keeps going back to it. Obviously, real quick, I'll get into that. I'll get into that. But Indy was able to get the win. Tessa tried to take her out. It didn't work, but Indy did get the win. But yeah, after this match, Tessa's promo just kind of talking about how Indy walked all over her in this business. And I don't know, maybe you can fill me in a little bit more. Was Tessa the one that did bring her in? Was this just a heel promo? I'm not too familiar with the history.
Same, same. I'm not really too much familiar, but other than like they wrestled each other a couple times, and the Indies, their matches on YouTube, by the way, if anyone wants to check them out. Um, I will say there is some sort of like maybe you could say there's some sort of realism to it, but it's also it's just wrestling, storyline and all that stuff. So basically, yeah, Tessa's saying that Indy took advantage of took advantage, I guess you could say, of her way, getting to like a WWE and all that stuff, and yeah, this is basically a test of kind of pointing the blames towards Indy and like Indy mentioned a while back, not taking accountability and stuff. So it's just kind of like they're building tensions, so to speak.
Mhm.
Like yeah, like that's what both women are trying to build tensions for each other. But yeah, I don't really remember much of this match other than yeah, Tesla on commentary, yeah, yapping about Indy and stuff. But yeah, Indy got the win, and then Tesla, cutting down a promo. Yeah, basically running down Indy and whatnot, even though if it's not true, even though if it was not true and stuff. But so yeah, basically yeah, both. This is heated feud. I'm really digging. That doesn't even involve the Knockouts title. And my thought after that is like, yeah, Indy. this is a big match for Indy. Like, can she bring it? Especially, I mean, obviously, no offense to her, I don't think she can out promo Tessa. I mean, as we see, but like, can she hang with Tessa? That's the big question as we head to the anniversary. So this is a very good, it's a very heated feud, and I'm looking forward to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, and now I just think about it, like Tessa being the heel, her what she's saying doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be rooted in the truth. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
She could just be saying, like, metaphorically, Eddie stepped on her back. You know what I mean? So like, it really, again, I'm fine with that. So
And kudos to Hannafin, like, correcting Tessa, saying like, hey, well, Indy, she's a former NXT champ, blah blah blah, and this and that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Next, we're going to get into something that is a little. When I was a kid, there was a show called Magician's Secrets Revealed, where they would tell you how they did, they told you how they did magic tricks. And why I bring that up is because we get a Santino segment where he's interrupted by EY, the Northern Armory, and EY is basically saying what we all kind of think, that Cody Deaner is the hometown man. And Santino doesn't believe him. So EY basically tells him, and spoiler alert, basically I'm giving up he said, Santino, do you remember the character named Super Eric? And Santino says, of course. And Eric Young says, well, that was me. And he's like, no way. And I was shocked too. But you know what I mean? Way to peel back the curtain. I couldn't believe this, that he revealed that he was Super Eric.
Yeah, that was yeah. Once again, EY, not in a very brightest moods, but that's how EY is. Yeah, still barking at Santino, and, for having him being kicked out, and then not taking his aggression, not taking his frustration towards the hometown man, and so he thinks like so he says he's Cody Deaner, Santino denies it, blah blah blah, and then so I liked how EY mentioned Super Eric. That was a big pop out of me, because like never on television until now did EY admit that he was Super Eric. And for folks joining, yes, EY had this I'll do a quick rundown. So back when EY was like was in his paranoia gimmick, afraid of pyro. You remember EY's old character. Yeah. Yeah, afraid of pyro, being fired. Yeah, I love that one. So he was feuding with these two monster guys, Relic and Black Rain, aka Dustin Rhodes, and he was afraid of monsters. So like anytime he sees them, like he gets scared. So long story short, he puts on this superhero gimmick and character, and he shows no fear. It's like those, heroic, wimpy guy becomes superhero fast and all this stuff. So yeah, he's Super Eric. Yeah, Super Eric, comes to the rescue, takes out the monsters, rescue his tag partner Kazarian at the time. And one funny interesting, they end up winning the tag titles, but apparently, due to you'll have to like watch 2008 episodes to really get. So apparently, so it was sanctioned. Eric Young and Kazarian challenging for the title. It was Super Eric and Kazarian won the belts, and due to Super Eric not admitting that he's Eric Young, they got stripped of the tag title. So that was a little funny. So here we are, almost 20 years later. EY admitted that he is Super Eric, and that was a big pop.
Yeah. It's just like, talk about long-term storytelling, bringing something back from almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. So anyway, Santino wants proof. that Cody Deaner's the hometown man, and yeah, we'll see where EY and the Northern Army do from there. So,
So Eric Young's so good at comedy.
you can put EY in anything. It's just gonna get over.
Yeah. Okay. Next, we're gonna go into just a Joe Hendry promo with a sit down promo with Tom Hannafin, just kind of talking about the Slammiversary match. You know what I mean? Everything built up to it until now. You know what I mean? Like everything that's happened before this. I thought this was good. You know what I mean? For what it was.
Yeah. Joe. Yeah, Joe. He basically got straight to the point that like it bothers him that he let TNA down and this and that, the roster down, that an NXT guy, took the title from him. And he's not only that, like Trick doesn't even hold the title on his shoulder. Like if you see Trick, like he only like holds it in his hand, and that's to Joe, that's kind of like a little disrespect too. So basically, yeah, this is Joe feeling like he's on a mission to like bring the title back to TNA. But also on the other hand, you have Santana, who Joe said that he believes Mike's gonna carry the brand one day, but right now Joe feels like he needs to like it's Joe feels like it's still his time to like lead the brand and whatnot. So it's very interesting. Yeah, it's a very good segment. Like and you like this is kind of like serious Joe. Like I know some folks online kind of question like how serious can he be and whatnot because it's the song and meme and whatnot. But like this was very all business Joe Hendry. Like
Yes.
Like he is determined to like get that title back and whatnot. And it don't matter who's in the ring, Trick, Santana. So yeah, I'm curious to see what kind of Joe Hendry we get July 20th.
And you know what? Going back to Joe's point, it doesn't really bother me how I don't really care how someone really wears the belt. You know what I mean? Like, because personally, I always liked how Cody Rhodes carried the belt. You know what I mean? I like how Cody Rhodes, he never really had it on his shoulder. He always kind of carried it. You know what I mean? And so I get Trick's point. I mean, I get Joe's point, but you know what I mean? It doesn't really bother me how someone carries the belt, but I get it. I could see the symbolism of he's not really giving TNA respect by not, wearing the belt. That does make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, one more thing. Another thing. It puts pressure on Masha Slamovich. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we see how everyone's kind of the roster and
is on edge.
The TNA like is kind of like is like downing on Hendry, letting them down, losing the title to NXT. Imagine the pressure to Masha Slamovich because she's now in a title versus title situation, like, and like I mean, hopefully, like for the fandom, like she doesn't suffer the same fate as us. But at one stage, it's Masha's now in that similar position, going. So yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's on edge. There's a lot of pressure on her. She knows that.
Yeah.
She's standing in the way from TNA losing 2 belts. You know what I mean? And two top belts. So yeah, that's a lot of pressure. Okay. And speaking of Trick, we're gonna go to the main. And let me just say real quick, you know what I'm saying? I think that Trick is really. I think Trick's found it. I think Trick is probably one of, if not the top heel in wrestling right now, just based around the circumstances of him holding another company's title. But just this whole match was surrounded it for me. Trick was just going at Hannafin. You know what I mean? Basically Hannafin to put some respect on his name. You know what I mean? Like Hannafin, and then when he finally got out of him, you know what I mean? Because Hannafin's whole thing is, Trick is not in TNA. You know what I mean? Like and so just for the whole story of this, you know what I mean? So and again, the match, not taking away anything from the match. It was the Rascals and the Hardys, Rascals, Wentz and Myron Reed versus First Class and the Nemeth. This was great. But again, to me, to me, this was all about Trick Williams, and just to me, the ascension of him as a top heel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What did you think about this?
It was a good main event. Everyone showed out. Especially for Myron Reed, who was kind of like the fill-in for Trey. Glad he got some shine. Wentz matching both gears. That was pretty cool. AJ Francis, stood out too, being like the big powerhouse out of the team, bulldozing through everyone and stuff. And of course, you got the Hardys, being the rock stars that they are. Like everyone showed up. But yeah, like you mentioned, Trick Williams, getting involved. Obviously, throughout the match, yeah, him and Hannafin was arguing on commentary and stuff, pretty funny. But yeah, Trick getting involved, hitting Matt with the title belt, and AJ taking advantage. So yeah, it was a good main event. As we build towards the ladder match for the tag titles, and then post match beat down, and then Mike Santana comes out, tried to save the Hardys and stuff. And then Joe Hendry comes out, trying to save Santana, but during the melee, yeah, he accidentally well, he tried to hit AJ, but AJ, no, sorry, AJ pushed Santana into Hendry, and then Hendry turned around and mistakenly hit Santana. Thought it was someone else, and then Santana got hot, and then going after Hendry, and then both everyone had to break them up and stuff. Well, it was very good stuff. Yes, we head into Slammiversary. Both like this was a good match and everything building towards the title match and the world title match. Don't you agree?
Yeah, and let me I really like the idea of keeping Trick. I'd rather Trick and Santana be heated at each other than them being friendly to each other. So even if this was, what wasn't the intention, obviously they bumped into each other on accident. I'd rather have them pissed off with each other because, you know what I mean? I feel like, again, the more that they are, because again, I'm already worried about Hendry taking away from Santana's night. I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, no, I'd rather have this than being still. I'd rather have them contentious than friendly. But yeah, what a build! What a build! We're going to Slammiversary. So there's at least 5 marquee matches. So again, the tickets are rising up. There's been an uptick lately. So I think we're going to see a big turnout. And obviously, people always point out there's always a lot of a big number comes from day of. So I think we're going to see that number increase dramatically.
Yeah. They're definitely opening more seats. I have a good indication it's going to be their biggest attendance. Well, I mean, if not already, it's going to be their biggest attendance since lockdown 2013. And folks can do their history there. Folks can do the research there on that attendance. But again, yeah, I know folks have their concern. I don't think Santana, the crowd's not gonna like. The crowd's not gonna be faded away from Santana. Like again, he's from the Bronx. Like they're gonna be behind him. And of course, Henry, he's the worldwide phenomenon. He's got his supporters. So it's like how do I compare this? It's like you remember the Cena, Triple H, and Randy Orton feud. Like Cena has his supporters, Triple H has his supporters, and Orton, being the heel. So that's kind of how it is the same two big baby faces and the big heel. Like yeah, no one's not gonna I mean, no one's not gonna get cheered other than the heel and stuff. So yeah, I think we're good. But yeah, so next Thursday, Joe and Mike are teaming up again against Trick and Frankie Kazarian. And before that, they got the contract signing. So what's interesting was like we're still building as the days go ahead. Like there's build this Saturday, there's build probably next Tuesday, and then there's build on Thursday as we have this anniversary. So yeah.
Yeah, and going back to Joe Hendry, everyone who continues to say that his aura is decreased, they should listen to the pop that he got when he came out. It was louder than Santana's, which isn't a bad thing. That's why they added Joe to this match. You know what I mean? He clearly has a lot of fans, and they want those fans to watch. So, yeah. But yeah, I'm glad that things are heating up. I think we have next week's the go home show. Am I right? Is next week the go home?
The go home, yeah, the go home show.
Okay. So yeah, again, this was a much watch tonight, and obviously next week will be as well. But they're really turning it on at this point. So I think the card just needs those little bit of touches to round it off. But those main matches are there, the matches that make you buy a show. So yeah, this was good shit.
Sure. Yeah, this was actually a good one. Yeah, very looking forward to how we close off on the go home show this anniversary.
Joe, that's the point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What was Joe saying?
I was just saying real quick, this TNA run will give Trick confidence when he gets called up to the main roster. Joe Bosa said that. Joe, that's the main point. I think that was and you can tell the way he's carrying himself, he feels like a bigger deal as champion this time around.
Yeah.
But what were you saying, Niall?
I was saying that this I think Silva, yeah, he's announcing more match. He said more Slammiversary matches to be announced and stuff. And yeah, like I agree with Joe. Once this TNA run with Trick is done with and stuff, so like this really kind of boosts him. Like he's able to like do things out the range without the NXT system and stuff. So yeah. I'm glad this is really boosted Trick's confidence.
Yeah, he I think it really helps too when I think TNA has really made him feel like the guy. You know what I mean? And so, and I think a lot of people kind of would rather be the heel. I don't know that about Trick, but I don't know. I think he's like relishing in being the heel. You know what I mean? And I think he's doing a damn good job at it. So, yeah, to Joe's point, yeah, I think that when he goes up to the main roster, he's going to be a lot more prepared than he was if he was to just go right out of NXT if this didn't happen with TNA. So they made the right decision picking Trick for this. Okay, with that being said, we'll wrap it up. I think tonight was a very good show. Again, TNA's hot right now. And like you said, and people can do their homework, that lockdown number was a big number in 2013. So for TNA to get anywhere near that or even break that is really huge. You know, that's 12 years ago. You know what I mean? So that's really big. So, yeah. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone for – what was that?
I said definitely.
Yeah. So, with that being said, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Make sure to like and subscribe so when you get notified of whenever we go live, when anyone else, the great people in Body Slam, go live. But before we end, I want to ask you, Io, what are you looking forward to next week? And just what were your overall thoughts about tonight's show?
As I mentioned, yeah, it was a very good show. Loaded, very storytelling based show. And I think it's going to continue towards the Great American Bash with a contract signing, and then NXT, and then and then of course in next week's Impact as we head towards the final days to the big pay-per-view. So I'm very looking forward to next week.
Definitely.
And looking forward to being at the UBS arena.
Yeah, that's going to be a phenomenal show. That's easily looking like TNA's show of the year, and overall it could be a show of the year in all of wrestling. Just look at that card. So yeah, but before we get out of here, just want why don't you remind everyone where they can follow you at?
On Twitter at FrequencyIO. Just doing my thing, tweeting about movies, whatever's funny, whatever's funny around, the world and the news, and of course wrestling and stuff. So,
Big week for movies this weekend. Superman
that's
came
right,
out today.
Superman. Yeah,
Yep.
going there tomorrow. Can't wait.
Nice. I'm hearing good things, and that should be good news for everyone who was kind of praying for that. You know what I mean? So yeah. Definitely. Okay. Well, also you guys can follow me at on Twitter at BurtMac11. Covering TNA always, other wrestling as well, talking about it. But you can. With that being said, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you all next week.
Yeah, peace.
Oh, thank you! Oh, thank you! Oh, thank you!